The story begins with Ozumi Masato, a young high school boy who starts living with his aunt due to his parents' situation. While staying there, he attends a nearby high school alongside his older cousin Saya. Though Masato has officially become a high schooler, academics have never been his strong suit, and he'd struggled during the entrance exams. Still, he believes a fresh start in a new school might help him make it to a good university. But his first step toward that goal was showing up in mismatched shoes, which he only noticed after school. One day, as Masato studies, Saya approaches him and casually offers help if he ever needs it. Although he declines, Saya gently reminds him that they are living together, so he shouldn't hesitate to ask. Masato reflects on how she attends a prestigious university and has appointed herself as his private tutor. She's eager to help and leans in close to teasingly ask if he's found a girlfriend yet. Startled, Masato reacts nervously, clearly not ready for such a question. He knows Saya is always like this, poking fun at him and making small situations awkward. He mumbles that he doesn't have a girlfriend, and Saya playfully responds with a cheeky remark, suggesting it's a good thing because now his heart is all hers. Masato yells back in panic, insisting he's not interested in her, while Saya grins knowingly, certain he's just pretending. In his thoughts, Masato feels that Saya Ni-chan is nothing short of a daily obstacle. She constantly mocks him and wears revealing outfits that distract him during his studies. Determined, he vows to prove that he doesn't need her help and that he can manage everything on his own. With that resolve, he begins working on his English homework. He keeps a Death Note-style notebook labeled English equals enemy number 1, where he writes down every English word that has defeated him. Struggling with a particular word, he tries to figure it out when Saya walks over without asking and tells him the meaning. Masato tries not to look at her because her body-hugging clothes pull his attention, and he stubbornly claims he already knew the answer. But Saya leans closer, pressing herself lightly against the table, and points out his mistake in the word soft. Masato, now clearly flustered, suspects she's doing it on purpose. He is now thinking of setting a no distractions rule and sticking a paper on his door. Saya notices his expression and teasingly questions whether something specific is on his mind. He also discovers Saya has a set of study outfits that seem to get more aerodynamic with every session. His face glowed redder than a sunburned tomato, and she laughs at his reaction, continuing to enjoy making him squirm. He tries to brush it off and insists that he understands everything from class and doesn't need her assistance. And trying to impress Saya, he pretends to read a thick English novel, but ends up grabbing it upside down. Here, the truth is, he doesn't understand a single word. Saya can see him struggling and questions why he has stopped. Masato tries to push through, searching for meanings on his own, desperate to avoid asking for help. Then Saya leans in close again and whispers softly, saying if he gives up, she'll teach him everything gently. That line sends a shiver down Masato, and his hand suddenly loses grip, dropping his pen. As he moves to push her away, a mishap occurs, causing tense silence. Even the sound of the pen hitting the floor echoes in the room. Masato realizes he's stuck in an incredibly awkward position, thinking she's going to explode with anger. But Saya Ni-chan casually comments that he won't find the answer there and then jokes about it, leaving Masato completely stunned. He panics, trying to escape this weird situation while Saya continues teasing him. He blurts a word in a daze, and Saya praises him for answering a word correctly. She explains the meaning while watching his expression, though she senses he isn't even happy about getting it right. Masato shrugs off her excitement, saying he already knew. Saya, now seated comfortably, tells him he shouldn't forget that word again. Masato, sweating and still shaken. Saya praises him for being smart and says he can study well if he really tries. Masato tells her he doesn't need a tutor, believing he can improve on his own. Saya moves closer to praise him more, but Masato steps aside, clearly not wanting physical contact. She tells him he needs to rely on her, just like a student should trust a tutor. At this moment, Masato finally realizes she genuinely wants to help him, and perhaps he's misunderstood her teasing nature. Trying to accept that, he asks for help with a question. As Saya leans in and looks over the worksheet, she notices a sentence about marriage. She uses the moment to tease him again, saying even cousins can marry, just to fluster him. Masato panics, overwhelmed by the suggestion, and the conversation turns silly again. The next day, he sits nervously for his test, still unsettled by the chaotic, confusing moments with his cousin. Masato stays focused on his homework, but the moment he notices Saya Ni-chan sitting next to him, his thoughts drift. Ever since he moved into his aunt's house, Saya, her daughter, has been constantly around. She's always clingy, and it's impossible for him to avoid her. While he's lost in thought, Saya comes closer and curiously asks why his shoulders are so stiff. She reaches out, offering a shoulder rub, and gently begins massaging from behind. Feeling stressed? She asks casually. Masato, expression flat, brushes it off, though inside he's burdened. Poor exam results and weak study habits pressing hard on him. He knows he has to step up. Behind him, Saya playfully insists that no matter what he says, she'll still give him the shoulder rub. As she starts giving him a shoulder rub, he mentally calculates the odds of surviving this friendly ambush. He decides then and there he can't let her continue tutoring him. He doesn't want to grow attached to her. But Saya softly tells him that she wants him to rely on her. Still, Masato refuses to be caught in her little game. Instead of relaxing, Masato's tension grows worse, his body stiffening even more. Saya notices and questions why he's reacting that way, but Masato is already too overwhelmed to answer. Saya playfully compares his tense shoulders to rocks, proposing she should start a shoulder rub business named Saya's Stone Therapy. She proudly claims she's great at shoulder rubs and that he should relax. Masato, struggling, tells her that the whole thing makes him feel ticklish, prompting Ni-chan to mischievously lean closer and tease him further. She asks how it feels. Saya jokingly suggests Masato needs a spiritual cleansing after his stressful exams. In a burst of panic, Masato jumps forward and steps away, insisting now that he will give her a back rub instead. This surprises Saya, but she looks pleased. Masato, meanwhile, thinks that all he wants is to study in peace, but Saya keeps making it impossible. As his turn comes to give the shoulder rub, he silently vows to press so hard that she might even cry. But Saya simply tells him she's happy. Reluctantly, Masato starts massaging her shoulders. Unexpectedly, Saya lets out a few playful noises, catching Masato off guard. He stiffens, confused and embarrassed by her reactions. Sensing his panic, Saya laughs and explains that it just feels really good. While rubbing, she casually mentions that her shoulders feel very stiff, even though she doesn't lift anything heavy. Masato silently connects the dots, realizing exactly what is causing that heaviness. As he continues, he notices her bra is slightly visible through the thin fabric of her shirt. Saya then tries to comfort him by saying she knows he's struggling with studies, but he should also make time to rest and play. She wants him to leave all that stress to his favorite cousin. Masato quickly corrects her, trying to deny any fondness. Just then, he notices her bra strap has come loose. He thinks about quietly fixing it, hoping she won't notice. As he does it, Saya lets out another sound, making the situation even more awkward for Masato. She thanks him sweetly, while Masato just hopes she didn't notice him adjusting her strap. Saya stretches and says she feels much better now, but Masato wishes she wouldn't do that in front of him. Suddenly, her bra strap snaps completely, making it awkward. Both of them feel an immediate wave of embarrassment, unsure of what to do. Saya turns her head, ready to walk away, but Masato hesitantly asks if she's okay. At that exact moment, she spins around and accidentally hits Masato right in the face. The impact nearly knocks him out. Saya quickly apologizes and rushes out, while Masato sits there stunned. He can't help but think how stupid his cousin is, but oddly, his shoulders now feel surprisingly lighter. Masato fails his exam again, but he doesn't give up. Instead, he decides to work even harder from now on. When he gets home, he sees his cousin Saya exercising. Seeing this, he mumbles as she breathes heavily during her workout. As soon as she notices him, she welcomes him with a smile and asks if something bad happened today. Masato quickly realizes that Saya is sharp. She seems to guess things just by looking at him. Still, he pretends everything is fine. But Saya keeps observing his face and figures out that he probably failed the test or needs rest. She tells him not to worry and to leave everything to his cousin. Then, unexpectedly, she suggests they do some muscle training together. Masato hesitates, thinking that are they studying or summoning a demon? But agrees, and both of them start exercising. While working out, Masato sighs internally, realizing he's once again caught in his cousin's silly games. Saya tells him to focus on the workout, but he knows this has nothing to do with actual studying. Instead, this seems like cousin torture disguised as fitness. While doing push-ups, he notices Ni-chan making it hard for her to do them properly. He doesn't want to waste his time on this nonsense. Just as he thinks that, he suddenly feels a heavy weight on his back. It's Saya. She sits on top of him and tells him to treat it like an extra challenge in his workout. Masato internally vows, thinking that if he survives this session, he is going to burn every dumbbell in this house. Masato groans in pain but still tries to continue. He doesn't want to lose to his cousin, but eventually he collapses onto the floor, completely exhausted. Saya asks if he's okay, and Masato snaps, saying he doesn't have time for these games. He needs to pass his retest. Hearing this, an idea pops into Saya's head. She suggests a new kind of exercise that also helps him study. They'll intertwine their legs, and while doing the workout, she'll ask him study questions. Masato hesitates again, but Saya insists like a proper tutor and pushes him to focus. She starts by asking, what element is represented by the symbol He? Masato quickly answers, helium. Encouraged by the format, they continue the question and answer session while exercising. Soon, Saya asks about the element with the symbol K, but he overthinks it and wastes time. She ends up giving him the answer, but because she's tired and breathing heavily, her voice comes out more like a soft moan than a normal response. The sound sends a strange vibration through Masato, and he wonders why his cousin has to sound so suggestive. He thinks that why does she screams like she's in a dramatic opera every time she says a word? Before he can recover, Saya throws the next question at him, but for Masato, concentrating gets harder. She's so close now that he can hear her breathing, and the proximity messes with his focus. He strains his brain to remember the answer to her question, but time runs out again. Saya lets out another deep moan while getting the answer, and Masato freezes in shock. Feeling overwhelmed, Masato tells her they're done for today. But now, he can't even tell whether his heart is racing from exercise or from being so close to his cousin. As Saya leans even closer, Masato internally panics. Then she leans forward, and in a teasing tone, says that Masato's belly feels hard, like he's really pushing himself. Hearing her say that, he completely loses his calm and screams in frustration. A few days later, when he returns home, he looks unusually satisfied. This time, he's done well on his retest. Saya notices and smiles. When Masato asks about her smile, she simply tells him that he should give some credit to his cousin. After all, she helped him get here, but Masato prefers to take all the credit for himself. After school, Masato comes home and sees his cousin Saya Ni-chan welcoming him with a smile. She tells him that she just took a shower and feels super refreshed. Seeing her like that, he awkwardly looks away, trying to figure out where to fix his gaze so he doesn't embarrass himself. Saya casually asks if he ever feels scared coming home alone. She even suggests giving him a ride home next time. Masato panics a little and insists that he's in high school and can take care of himself. But Saya teases him, saying he's still young and she worries about him. She tells him he should always depend on his cousin. Masato, feeling a bit annoyed, thinks she's just mocking him. He doesn't want to be clingy with her. He wants to focus on his studies, especially to avoid more tutoring sessions with her. Just then, Saya walks into his room with her gaming setup. Masato is surprised, while Saya is amused to see him seriously studying. Masato tells her he doesn't need a tutor right now. But Saya grins and says she's not here to tutor. She wants to play games with him. Masato says no, explaining that he wants to study. Saya tries to convince him, saying playing games will help relax his mind. She teases that he's probably just afraid of losing to his cousin. She declared that if he lost again, she will use him as her gaming chair for the next match. Masato gets annoyed and shouts that it's not like that. Saya ignores his frustration and confidently says he's just a kid. He can't beat her anyway. Masato knows she's using her older cousin card again, but he decides this is his chance. If he beats her, maybe she'll finally stop teasing him. He accepts her challenge and tells her that if she loses, she's not allowed to cry. They both pick their characters and the game begins. Both are serious about winning, but Masato knows Saya is really good at games. Still, he manages to win the first round, surprising even himself. Saya immediately demands a rematch. As the second game starts, he gets distracted and she wins. Realizing how he got distracted, Masato challenges her again. This time, Saya seems determined not to lose either. The game starts again, and once more, her movements distract him. Masato starts to think maybe Saya is doing it on purpose to throw him off. His brain screamed at him to focus on the game. Then Saya smirks and says the loser will face a punishment. Hearing that, Masato starts sweating nervously. But he tries to ignore everything and stay focused. Beating her at this game feels harder than solving a calculus problem while blindfolded and upside down. But every time he catches sight of her, he loses concentration. He keeps trying hard to beat her, but his eyes won't behave. Suddenly, Saya catches him staring and teasingly asks about it. At that exact moment, the game ends, and Saya wins again. Masato is completely stunned. He stammers, saying he wasn't looking, but Saya jokes, calling him a kid. Masato was left speechless and overwhelmed. And the punishment for losing? Well, that's still waiting for him. It's the middle of the night. Masato is fully prepared to dive into his studies. Finals are coming, and he's determined to do well this time. In his mind, he's confident. This time he'll study hard and score way above average. Just as he's getting focused, his cousin Saya suddenly walks in. She smiles, happy to see Masato studying so seriously. But he frowns and reminds her that he asked not to be disturbed. Saya, however, says she's really impressed by young Masato and only came to help and cheer him on. Hearing that, he is stunned, especially when he sees what she's wearing. He stared at Saya's cheerleader outfit like it is a pop quiz in French, unexpected and full of danger. He nervously asks why she's dressed like that. Saya explains, with a sweet innocent face, that she secretly borrowed her sister's cheerleader uniform because she wants to support him properly. She insists she's just trying to help him study better. Masato already knows, whenever Saya makes that cute face, it's hard to say no. He agrees, but only on one condition: she won't make any noise. Saya smiles and says she'll cheer with all her heart, and starts softly making cheering sounds from her mouth while standing behind him. Masato tries to focus on his textbook, but her presence and voice make it hard. He tries to focus, but her silent chants behind him feels like motivational ASMR gone wrong. Then she starts correcting his answers from behind, pointing out his mistakes. She believes Masato really needs her guidance. Frustrated, Masato suddenly shouts that he doesn't need anyone's help and tries to refocus. But slowly, sleep creeps in, and soon he dozes off at his desk. Seeing him asleep, Saya walks closer and gently touches his arm. He's fast asleep. She giggles and says he's pushing himself too hard, and in this moment, she finds him kind of cute. She wishes he wouldn't overwork himself so much. Saya leaned over his sleeping form and whispered, thinking that he studies like a hero, but snores like a pigeon. Lately, she's noticed Masato seems frustrated, and she wants to support him more. That's why she came to cheer him up tonight. But since they live together now, she also secretly hopes he'd give her more attention, not just focus on his books all the time. Just as she's quietly looking at him, Masato suddenly wakes up. He realizes he fell asleep while studying and quickly checks the time. Luckily, not much was wasted. He turns to Saya and asks what she was saying. But instead of answering, she teases him. She says that while he was sleeping, he talked in his sleep, and apparently said he wants to be more affectionate with her. He nearly falls out of his chair saying that it is a dream lie, which turns him red because he knows he'd never say something like that, even in his dreams. Then comes exam day. Before the test starts, Masato overhears some classmates joking that he'll probably fail again. He tries to ignore them, but just then, his phone buzzes with a message. He opens it and sees a cheerful good luck message from Saya. She's cheering him on for his exam. Masato feels a wave of panic again. He wants to give his full concentration to the exam, not get distracted by his cousin. Masato's results are finally out. Sadly, he manages to score well in only one subject. He looks disappointed and lost, sitting quietly, thinking about how hard he studied, yet still got poor marks. He stared at his results like they are written in ancient Sanskrit. Confusing, painful, and absolutely not what he studied. Saya notices his mood and feels sad for him. She gently tells him that this kind of setback is normal, and at least he tried his best. But Masato feels like a kidnapped squirrel, like his soul has left his body. He's mentally drained. To cheer him up, Saya grabs his hand and takes him out for a walk. They end up at a nearby arcade. The bright lights and sounds lift Saya's mood immediately. It's been a long time since she visited a fun place like this. She runs to a claw machine and tries to win a teddy bear, but she fails. Honestly, the teddy bear in the claw machine looked emotionally exhausted, like it has been through 5 breakups. Masato watches her struggle and decides to try. On his very first attempt, he wins the teddy bear. Saya is thrilled. She suddenly hugs him tightly, pressing herself against him, and thanks him excitedly. Her surprise hug almost gives him a heart attack. Masato, completely flustered, pulls back and awkwardly tells her not to cling to him like that in public. Saya just laughs and calls it a happy hug. They continue playing more games together. At the carom board station, they play around. But when Masato strikes, the striker flies off the board, hits Saya's chest, and bounces right into Masato's face as possibly the most tragic physics experiment ever conducted without a lab coat. The moment is embarrassing and silly, and they both laugh. Time flies as they enjoy the games, and then Saya notices a photo booth in the corner. She immediately wants to take pictures with Masato. He refuses, but she reminds him that he still owes her a punishment. As part of the punishment, he agrees to take the photos. While inside the booth, Masato starts feeling like Saya is getting a little too close. As he is standing like a statue under threat, his soul had already tries to escape through his ears. Saya tells him to smile, and just then, the photo clicks. She excitedly runs out to check how the photo turned out. Masato grumbles, telling her there's no need to get so excited. Saya teases him by saying, "Then why is the young boy's face blushing so much?" Masato thinks maybe he needs to learn how to stand up for himself. But instead of focusing on studies, he notices a strange feeling. He's a little excited too. While he's lost in thought, Saya suddenly hugs him from the side. Masato yells that she's standing too close again. She calmly responds that she knows Masato worked very hard in his studies, and that's something to be proud of. Just then, the camera flashes for another photo. Saya sees that Masato still looks a bit gloomy, so she steps forward and gently kisses him on the cheek. He freezes in shock. Saya smirks and says, "If he works even harder next time, she will give you an even better reward," and Masato decided that maybe, just maybe, failure is not so bad after all. Hearing this, he almost faints on the spot. They finish the photo session and head back home. On the way, Saya laughs and teases him that she is noticing that, after that kiss, he actually looked a little happier. Masato, panicking, quickly denies it. Saya chuckles and says that he really is a handful. Masato quietly wonders why she keeps treating him like a kid. As they near home, he tells himself that once they get back, he'll focus only on his books. He sees the photo in Saya's hand and nervously warns her that don't get any weird ideas from that picture. At high school, a group of girls gathers near the hallway, chatting and gossiping excitedly. One of them calls a certain boy cute, and not too far away, Masato stands quietly, watching them from a distance. Among the girls is Eiko, his cousin sister, who looks as adorable as ever. Masato can't help but think she resembles an angel. But back at home, the scene is entirely different. Ako stands near Masato, glaring at him in frustration. Ako storms in with one leg raised like a kung fu master and accuses him of stealing her clothes. Masato, caught off guard, has no idea what she's talking about. But Ako is fully convinced it's him. The last time she saw the clothes, Masato had been near the laundry area, and now she treats him like the prime suspect. Masato responds with disbelief, finding her accusation ridiculous, but his confused expression only fuels Aiko's suspicion even more. He knows Eiko is nothing like her sweet sister. She's always been sharp-tongued and rough with him. Her suspicion is so intense, Masato feels like he's in a courtroom drama, except the judge has zero patience and way too much leg flexibility. He tries to explain to her that maybe she misplaced her clothes somewhere, but she instantly shuts him down, still calling him a thief, all while Masato thinks to himself how she always manages to show up and annoy him right when he's trying to study. Without warning, Ako points a finger at him, claiming she saw him staring way too much at her sister the other day. Masato freezes in horror, looks like someone just threw a live grenade into his brain, completely speechless, before suddenly shouting that he has no interest at all. This reaction only confirms Eiko's suspicions, and she immediately brands him a wolf. Masato tries to defend himself in his thoughts, thinking that if he had to admit anything, it would be his interest in Saya's figure, not Eiko's sister. Out loud, he tries to deny everything, but Eiko, now proudly talking about her sister, happily describes her big, cute body and seems pleased that her sister is better than him. She hugs her sister with affection and seems to admire her even more. Masato mentally files this moment under reasons therapy might be necessary. But suddenly, her tone changes again. Turning back to Masato, she reminds him that no matter how good her sister looks, what Masato did is still unforgivable. She warns him not to ever look at her sister like that again. Masato knows the real reason behind his confusion and stress is Saya. Still, he tries to convince Eiko that he isn't interested in her at all. But as fate would have it, his school bag slips off his shoulder and hits the floor. A magazine tumbles out. It is so perfectly timed. Masato briefly suspects the universe is producing this scene with a laugh track. Ako rushes toward it and picks it up immediately, her eyes narrowing at the cover. She questions Masato's earlier claims, now staring at clear proof that says the opposite. As she opens the magazine and begins reading it, Masato starts panicking badly. He watches as Eiko's eyes scan the pages slowly and intensely, and something about her focus makes him suspect that even she might be a bit of a pervert. Then Eiko suddenly turns back toward him with an embarrassed yet serious face, declaring herself a decent girl. But the magazine in her hand now becomes her evidence, proof, as she says, that Masato is the real thief. Things escalate. The two argue back and forth, and in the middle of the fight, they both slip and fall to the floor. They realize they've fallen on each other. Masato lies stiff, worrying that Eiko might suddenly punch him in this position. After all, she has never liked him. He wishes she would just push him off. But Eiko, looking up at him, mutters something about his obsession and declares all guys to be like this. Her face is covered in sweat now, and her words leave Masato stunned. Just as Eiko is about to say something else, Saya appears suddenly at the door. The two immediately scramble to their feet, trying to escape the awkward moment. As they get up, Eiko throws one last comment at Masato, telling him to stop blushing like that. Then she turns and runs to hug her sister Saya tightly, as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, Masato stands there, completely confused by everything that just happened. In his mind, he starts to wonder how Eiko turns into a totally different person whenever she's with Saya. All he's left with now are strange, complicated thoughts about his cousin Eiko. Masato is at home, enjoying his free time and thinking that today he will study all day without being disturbed. However, before he starts, he feels the need to use the toilet. As soon as he opens the door, he is shocked to see his cousin Saya sitting inside like it's the most casual thing in the world. In an embarrassing moment, he quickly slams the door shut, trying to escape the situation. From inside, Saya apologizes, saying that she forgot to lock the door. Outside the bathroom, Masato stands frozen, questioning his life choices and wondering if he just unlocked a trauma level. Suddenly, Eiko appears behind him, calling him a pervert and pointing out that maybe Saya will forgive him, but she won't. Masato feels like the universe hired her as his personal insult generator. Masato insists that it wasn't his fault, but Eiko doesn't seem to buy it. Just as they argue, Saya steps out of the room. Seeing her, Eiko walks over to her and asks if she is angry with Masato for what happened. Saya calmly explains that when you live with people, these things happen. She tells Eiko that they should all live together like cousins without getting upset. Eiko, starting to calm down, hugs Saya and then asks if they can watch a movie together. Masato, still focused on his studies, refuses, but Saya is determined, and soon the three of them are sitting together to watch a horror movie. Masato is uncomfortable, squeezed between the two sisters on the couch. He realizes too late that this horror movie screening is actually a psychological experiment, with him as the subject. Saya notices his unease and tells him that if he sits between them, he won't be scared. Saya believes Masato is frightened, but he denies it. Sitting next to him, Eiko warns Masato not to even think about getting too close to her sister. He finds himself trapped between the two of them, feeling more anxious than ever. Eiko pulls his ear like she's tuning a radio station. Masato, overwhelmed by the situation, thinks that these two sisters are far more terrifying than any horror movie could ever be. As the movie continues, night falls and Saya says she got hot while hugging Masato and jokingly adds that next time she'll hug Eiko instead. Masato nearly chokes on his own anxiety, feeling uncomfortable, and shouts at them, claiming they were both scared during the movie. However, the sisters don't seem to care much about his words, and Saya walks off to her room. Masato, still trying to make sense of things, heads to his own room, thinking that the horror movie was just fictional. But a while later, he hears the sound of a door opening. He steps outside to see Eiko sitting on the stairs, crying. Concerned, he walks over to her and sees the tears in her eyes. Eiko explains that thinking about the movie is making her scared, and now she needs to go to the restroom but is too frightened to go alone. Masato, trying to be kind, tells her to go ahead and come back. However, Eiko begs him to go with her, grabbing his hand and urging him to join her. He agrees and together they head to the restroom. It's more like a haunted dungeon. Masato figures his life has officially crossed into ghost hunting babysitter territory. When they reach the restroom, Eiko asks him to open the door and check for ghosts inside. Masato hesitates but opens the door only to see Saya sitting there. In a panic, he quickly slams the door shut again. Eiko, eager to know, asks if there's a ghost inside. Masato, feeling the pressure building, replies that the only thing terrifying in there is the situation itself. As Eiko presses on, Masato can't take the pressure anymore. After taking a shower, Saya steps out and begins drying herself with a towel. She thinks about how hot it's been for the past few days and how nothing can replace the refreshing coolness of a post-shower breeze. Meanwhile, Masato is walking home from high school, feeling cheerful because summer break has officially started. He tells himself that this time he won't let these two sisters distract him. He plans to fully focus on his studies. But the moment he enters the house, Saya greets him like it's just another casual day. She's just come from the shower and walks straight to the gate without dressing. Masato is stunned and panics, shouts. Saya suddenly realizes her state, and turning red with embarrassment, quickly hides her face and throws on a shirt, saying she forgot. Masato is shocked by how defenseless she looks. Then Saya starts standing in front of the fan, making "ala tilde" sounds like a little kid, clearly enjoying the breeze. She tells Masato that she feels really cool and relaxed today. Saya reminds Masato of their childhood, how they used to stand in front of fans and make silly noises together. She then jokingly says that back then, he was an honest little boy, but now he's just a pervert. Masato feels like he's being accused of trying to steal the world's last cookie. Masato feels a shiver run through his body and strongly denies it. He tells himself that he has zero interest in his cousin. Saya just laughs and tells him that even if he's grown physically, he's still a toddler inside. Masato is left stunned. He realizes she's messing with him, and as he turns away to leave, he tells her that she's making him feel too hot, so he's going to his room. But before walking off, he gets an idea to get back at her. He rushes to the fridge, grabs an ice cube, and suddenly drops it inside Saya's shirt. Saya immediately screams from the shock of the cold, struggling to get the ice out. Masato smirks and says that's her punishment for calling him a toddler. Saya glares at him, clearly annoyed. She walks over and tells him he has really pissed her off today, and now it's her turn to punish him. Suddenly, she lunges at him and locks his neck in her arm. She declares proudly that Masato will never be his big cousin, not even in 100 years. He starts screaming for forgiveness, but Saya clearly has no plans to show mercy, for now. It's a hot day and Saya sits restlessly, clearly uncomfortable. The air conditioner isn't working properly, and the heat is getting to her. Masato, too, struggles to concentrate on his studies as the warmth fills the room as if the heat wave has reached its final boss form. His focus breaks every few minutes, and frustration starts to build. Suddenly, Saya's face lights up with an idea. She jumps up and quickly pulls Masato toward her room. The moment he steps inside, he freezes. Standing in front of him, Saya is wearing a swimsuit. A surprised expression spreads across his face as he processes the sight. She casually gestures at herself, showing how the swimsuit is keeping her cool, and Masato wonders if he should just throw himself into a freezer instead. She appears quite pleased with herself, explaining her reasoning. She adds that the swimsuit actually belongs to her mother. Masato's brain hits a loading screen. A puzzled thought crosses his mind. Why would his aunt even own something so bold? Saya looks at him with a smirk and suggests that he should also try wearing something like this. It might help with the heat, but just as she moves, she suddenly freezes and slowly lowers herself to the floor. Her cheerful tone fades as discomfort sets in. The swimsuit feels tighter than expected, pressing against her skin. Growing uneasy, she admits the discomfort, not wanting Masato to see her like this anymore. Masato stands awkwardly, watching the situation unfold with a mix of concern and disbelief. Masato has never wanted to both help and run away at the same time so badly.